So players in the information technology sector are concerned about Eskom's unabating power cuts. There are worries that the continuous and prolonged power cuts are damaging IT infrastructure. Let's hear more about the sector's concerns from Steve Porter, Managing Director at Irontree. Steve, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I think we've been worried about a lot of things, appliances, etc., but data is quite concerning in case there's just a collapse of a grid. Why?
Indeed. I mean, I think, thank you for having me, and say hello to everybody. Every business runs on data in this day and age, as we well know. There's literally no business, unless you're cutting hair, that has transactional data, that has value, and that has both a reputational and cost element if it's not available. And I think what we're seeing in the market with, as you rightly said, with the power challenges we have in this country, businesses need to take measures to ensure that they can operate regardless of power shortages, Durban floods, you name it. I think we've moved from a fairly immature IT environment for businesses, and I feel personally and strongly that we have to mature our business continuity practices. And obviously I can go into detail, as much detail as you'd like on that topic.
Yeah, please. So what is it that businesses can do, and even the ordinary person, right?
Indeed. So if I just give you some background quickly, we've been in the business of protecting companies' data for the last 14 years. We recently acquired by the Metrofile group. And our job remains the same, is to ensure that businesses can transact on a daily basis. We very specifically focus on the SME and mid-tier space. So exactly like I said earlier, your hairdressing salons all the way up to your 1,000-people companies. If you consider the costs and the effects of downtime from a reputational risk perspective, from a governance perspective, you're talking about roughly, and this is a global stat, of about 25,000 Rand per minute of downtime. And this is a slightly more frightening stat that 60% of businesses that fail will fail following a data breach or loss of data. So if I just unpack that slightly further, the majority of smaller organizations and mid-tier organizations will have some form of data backup. So what do we mean by data backup? So you and I have a laptop, we take it home, we sadly leave it in the back of our car, and all our data is lost. If you have a backup, it ensures that your IT team can restore the data and you can carry on working the next day. And that next day is critical. There's a large time period or window in which the IT team can recover the data. If you take, for example, a company like ours or any company that transacts where there's money changing hands, some system has to ensure that money changes hands. So we call that sort of transactional data. It's not good enough just to back up the data, because what that means is there will be downtime, and then we come back to the stat of 25,000 per minute of downtime. So you need to have multiple strategies in place to ensure that you can get back up and running ASAP. And I'm talking within minutes here. And that's where disaster recovery comes in. And I come back to, I think the maturity of the South African business market has to improve to ensure that regardless of the type of calamity that affects us, we can continue transacting. So if I just give you a quick summary of what that means, what does disaster recovery mean? So if I say I have a financial application or an ERP application or a CRM application that I host either in the cloud or at my business on premise, you have an identical copy of that data running at all times. So on the assumption that, let's just say for argument's sake, which none of us actually want, we move from, say, stage 3 where we are today to stage 11 tomorrow, the majority of businesses, even if they're prepared from, with inverters or solar or generators, they won't have the capacity to last for how many hours it's going to be. At that point, you flick over to, we call it site B. So site A, where your primary data is, and site B is where your secondary data is. It's almost a seamless switch. It happens within seconds, and there's no data loss. So what it means, whether we're in COVID or whether we're in stage 11 load shedding, is that business can carry on transacting. And I think that's critical. We know how much downtime is costing us from a grid perspective. This is just one way of ensuring or mitigating that from an organizational perspective. I've done everything in my power to ensure that I can take care of my business and my employees, and from a microeconomy perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve,
I think it's critical.
Yeah,